Oh my God, because it happened during a very, very traumatic time for me. I literally signed the book deal, I think it was in the October, and my husband and I, who had been married for 10 years, separated in the December, and the first draft was due in the June. Like, my aim with all of my work is to make people feel seen and to help people feel less alone, because I've always felt like that. I've always felt like an outsider, like a weirdo, like I don't quite fit in. I'm a big fan of living from the inside out. So figuring out what it is that you value, what it is that you want. Again, it's okay to be you, accepting that, and then building a life around that.
Welcome to What If It All Works Out? My name is Sophie Callahan, and I started this podcast because I wanted to empower women to show up confidently and consistently online as themselves by sharing stories and examples of what things look like when they all work out. My career began in photography, and I am now a marketing and mindset coach for female entrepreneurs and the mum to two little girls. I teach you everything that I learned over 10 years in my business about content marketing and building the life of my dreams so that you can do the same. My guests here have inspiring stories to tell, knowledge for us to learn from, and really valuable experiences to share with us. So grab a cup of tea and get ready for conversations that will change your mindset, your business, and the way you show up in your life. When Jessica Rose Williams was diagnosed with cervical cancer at the age of 25, she found herself at a crossroads that became the catalyst for exploring a slower, more intentional way of living. She began her entrepreneurial journey as a minimalist blogger, publishing eBooks to help people simplify their home, their life, and their wardrobe. Over the next few years, despite navigating through some of the most difficult personal experiences in her entire life, her career flourished, and she is now an author, a vlogger, a writer, and a port in the storm for so many. Her ability and willingness to share her stories honestly and vulnerably online has attracted a community of loyal, connected fans, and I caught up with Jessica to talk about the evolution of her brand for this very first guest episode of What If It All Works Out. We discuss everything from feeling like an outsider to self care and self preservation. And we really dive into how it feels to share your most intimate struggles on the internet and actually how doing just that can even help you heal. I absolutely loved this conversation with Jessica. I find her realness so inspiring. She shares so many wonderful pieces of advice throughout this episode about how we can live with intention, put ourselves first, and still build businesses that we really love to run. So, here is my very first guest podcast, and we are setting the bar so high. This is Jessica Rose Williams. Jessica Rose Williams, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me. And we're recording, aren't we? Am I right in thinking that we're like videoing?
We are,
We're
yes.
recording video as well.
Yeah, so it's going on YouTube and it's going on obviously audio. So hello, welcome to What If It All Works Out. It's so lovely to have you here. As you know, I am a big fan. I have followed you for a long time, firstly through horses and then with everything else that you share. So I'm so excited that you're here today, and I'm so it's so excited to share everything you do with my audience and anyone who might not have come across you in the past. So, can you just break down for us very quickly what it is you do, where you started, and how you got to where you are now?
Oh my gosh. The existential questions. Let's just go
Yes.
straight in with those. Yes, I mean, it's taken me quite a long time actually to get like a sentence together about what it is that I actually do, and it's changing. So I'm a writer, first and foremost, is what I call myself now. But I do lots of different things. I do YouTube, I write on Substack, I had a blog, and it's all kind of evolved and snowballed over the years into what it is that I do now. And I take photos as well. So those things and somehow I've managed to string it together into what we call an online
A,
career.
a career. And what is it you would say? How would you define what you share and the content that you create and who you are for? Because you are very intentional about your brand and what you share online. And I think that's really important.
Yeah, so my thing, when someone asks me like, oh, you're a writer, and then they'll say, what do you write about, which is after who do you write for, which is when I say myself.
Yeah.
um so I write about living the life that we want to live instead of the life that we think we should live, and that is what all my work is centered around. That is my core belief, they're my core values, and that is very much why I do what I do, because I think that it is our superpower to be who we are, that it's okay to be who we are, flaws and all, and that there is magic in that, and that we should be embracing that in trying to fit into molds that we don't mesh with, that we're not meant for.
Yeah, I love that. And I have read your book enough, which actually got me through some incredibly difficult night feeds at 4 a.m. when I had my new baby last year, or the
Yeah.
year before. And it's incredible. It's so empowering and inspiring. And, the reason I started this podcast was I wanted to help women to show up confidently for themselves in a way that feels good for them. And your book is so about that, isn't it? There's so many, and it's a really practical book as well, because you don't just read it and then put it over there. There's exercises in there to do, right? So tell us more about that. Tell us how that came about. Where was the inspiration from that, and the process of writing that? Because I know it was really a process for you, wasn't it?
Yeah, it definitely was. So I started my blog. I started Instagram first, and then I got into blogging, and my blog was very much centered around embracing a minimalist lifestyle. And I always wanted to write a book. That was a big dream of mine, whether that was going to be nonfiction or moving into fiction. That was like the end goal for me. And I got approached a few times about writing a book, and mainly publishers wanted me to do something like a how-to kind of book.
Right.
And every time I got asked, I just said, there's no point, because I feel like everything's already been said. What I really want to do is share my own personal story, because I think that's what people relate mostly to. I think that's what brings meaning to work. And I know that when I started with simple living, more intentional living, when I was very much at a crossroads, I was diagnosed with cervical cancer when I was 25, which is where everything started. When that happened, and I started looking into different ways of living as opposed to the mainstream ways that we're sold, it was people's personal stories that I found most
Yeah.
valuable. So I wanted to blend those two together, and eventually, I it all lined up that a publisher they wanted that too, so it was a really good fit. And then the book was like happened. It got
It
commissioned.
happened.
It just
Just
happened.
happened.
It was like happening. And I was like, oh my God, because it happened during a very, very traumatic time for me. I literally signed the book deal, I think it was in the October, and my husband and I, who had been married for 10 years, separated in the December, and the first draft was due in the June. And I had
Wow.
50 to 70,000 words to churn out between that time.
Wow.
I didn't live in the perfect house that I'd been living in and blogging in. I was staying at my mum's and trying to find somewhere to live. It was lockdown, and I was
Wow.
also in a very unhealthy family relationship at the time, where there was a lot of abuse going on. So they were pretty dark days, but honestly, writing that book was an escape every
And
day.
it's such a positive book as well. So the fact that it came out of such a difficult time is just unreal. So, do you feel that what you were going through at the time influenced the book? Do you think it would have been a very different book if you hadn't been in that space at that time?
Yeah, I think it definitely did. Looking back, I think I wrote the book that I needed.
Yeah. Yeah, I can totally see that.
Yeah.
Which is amazing really, because you're not the only person to have gone through difficult times, so therefore you've written a book that so many people are going to need. And you know when I read it, I had a baby, and millions of people have babies all the time, and it's it's seen as such a normal thing to do, but actually it can be really, really difficult and really, really, yeah. The face. For those of you who are not watching the video, Jessica just pulled a oh my god, yeah, face.
Absolutely. I mean, I
Yeah,
don't have kids, but I've heard it's like throwing a grenade into your relationship for
that
one.
is a very good explanation. And I needed those words at that time. I was not going through a relationship breakdown or a toxic family situation, but I was going through my thing.
Mm.
And those words really helped me through that thing. And I can imagine that that's just happened so many times with that book, which must feel incredible for you. If
Yeah,
there's going to be a silver lining to come out of a difficult situation.
yeah, absolutely. It's very important to me. Like my aim with all of my work is to make people feel seen and to help people feel less alone. Because I've always felt like that. I've always felt like an outsider, like a weirdo, like I don't quite fit in. And it turns out there are lots of people that feel that way. We just kind of tend to keep quiet about it.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of power in feeling like you're not alone in
Feeling
it's
alone together.
okay. Yeah, exactly that, being alone together.
Yeah.
And yeah, the book was super important to reach people like that. It's very much intended for people who find themselves at a crossroads in life
Right.
and aren't sure which path to take.
Yeah. That's amazing. So, with that in mind, you share an incredible amount of honesty and vulnerability online, in your written work, in your vlogs, everything. We've already touched upon like trauma within your family, your relationships. You've talked about getting back into dating recently, surgery, your own insecurities. There's so much that you share. How has that helped your brand, and how has that helped you connect to your audience? Um, and also, like, is there a personal cost to that, or is that kind of a therapy for you? How does that work?
Oh, what do you mean by personal cost?
Well, do you ever feel that vulnerability impacts you negatively, or do you feel like that's a positive thing for you to be able to share
Okay.
those things?
Okay. Again, so what I said about it's important that I really want to help people feel seen.
Yeah.
I also want to feel seen. And I know that to do that, to build genuine connection, I have to allow myself to be seen. And it's been a slow practice of building up that muscle of how far I'm willing to go with that. And I used to be very afraid of vulnerability. And I now see that there is so much power, courage, and strength in that. And I never feel worse afterwards. I only ever feel more connected to
Yeah.
people. The only rule that I have is one that I got from Brene Brown, and she said how she doesn't share anything vulnerable until she's on the other side of it.
Yeah.
Because when you put something out into the world, we don't know who it's going to go to. We don't know who's watching. We don't know what they're going to think. And you're opening yourself up for opinion, for judgment, and if you're not already through the other side of that, you're
Yeah.
very, very vulnerable. Whereas I tend to do it once I've got my head around it and I'm on steady ground and I'm open to people commenting on that.
Yeah. Yeah, I tell my clients to share scars, not wounds. So
Perfect.
if it's
Yeah,
still a scar
exactly.
and it's open and it's raw, it's so much
Mhm.
harder to deal with. Whereas you have the benefit of insight and experience once it's a closed wound, don't you?
You do, yeah. And
And
you're in a
that's when you can
safe
help
place as
people.
well. Like
Yeah.
I don't there's no value in sharing something as it's happening and you're not in a stable place, because you're not going to make other people feel stable. Like you just,
Yeah.
essentially just gonna freak people out. The only time I've done it is when it was after I had my surgery. And I said that in my Substack letter at the time, like, I've never done this before. I'm doing it for the first time. I'm still in this. And
Yes.
I was like, whoa, whoa. But it
Yeah.
was, it was very, very well received. And in terms of like brand wise, community wise, I just think it's brought people closer together. And that's always my goal. Like I'm not bothered about a million followers. I'm not bothered about having a, massive business as
Yeah.
such. Like I would always rather go deeper with the right people,
Yeah,
um,
absolutely.
than appeal to the masses. So
I
yeah.
mean, you're not doing too badly though. You do. And what you do have, it seems, is that your following is incredibly engaged and they
Mm.
want to hear from you and they want to share with you as well.
Oh
And I
yeah.
guess that comes as a consequence of you being vulnerable. People are then happy to be vulnerable back. Would you feel
Yeah.
that's
And I
right?
feel really honored to be able to hold that
Yeah.
kind of space. In terms of personal cost, no, I don't really, I don't, sometimes I can have little freakouts and I can feel quite naked in front of the internet
Yeah.
and think, oh my God, it's not at the time, it's like on a random Saturday while I'm cleaning the house, and I'll be like, oh my God, I said that 2 years ago. I'll
What have
never
I
think
done?
about it. Oh my goodness, what am I going to do? Um, and then I get through it. It's
Get
fine.
over
No
it.
harm has come to me as a
Yeah.
result.
Don't you find as
When I
well
get
that,
messages that people feel
yeah,
seen, they feel less alone, it's all worth it for me.
and the more you share parts of yourself online and the world doesn't implode, the more
Mm.
you're like, okay, actually, this is okay. I can do this.
Yeah,
And I feel like so many people get stuck at that first bit where they're like, I don't want to show my face and I don't want to
yeah,
share anything about me. And then they do it and they're like, oh, nothing happened, which I feel is
absolutely.
really empowering. So, on that line of conversation, vlogging. Talk to me about vlogging and the benefits of that. And do you enjoy doing it?
Yeah, I love vlogging. I love it. Like like I said, I started with Instagram, I did blogging, and then vlogging came along because I just got tired of
Right.
Instagram. I describe Instagram as the toxic boyfriend I don't need. That's how it feels in my
Yeah.
life. It's a toxic fuck boy, and I just don't need it.
Are you on TikTok though? That's like next level.
I tried TikTok, I fell in love with it, and then it somehow figured out that I was dating, and cannot. I cannot cope with the stuff that it sends me.
Yeah,
It's
the
really
algorithms are cruel.
unhealthy. I don't need that in my life either. But Instagram's a means to an end, because the people that are on there, the community that's on there, I freaking absolutely love and
Yeah,
adore them. It's the powers that be that I can't stand.
yeah,
YouTube is, I find it's much more creator friendly. It
yes,
pays creators for one, which is absolutely incredible. I find that it is a much deeper connection with people on there, which we're seeing with video anyway. That's why Instagram's going the way that it's going, and TikTok is what it is, because people engage with video more than they engage with photos, even though we all
yeah,
miss those Instagram days of just scrolling
yeah.
the pretty photos. So I enjoy that deeper connection. I feel like I can just share more, and that's the gap that it fills. Whereas on Instagram, it's just so quick, it's so fast, isn't it?
It is,
It's
yeah.
it's just not really my kind of vibe.
Yeah.
I feel
The
like
shelf life of your
over
post on Instagram is
there.
just so
Oh
short
yeah,
these days, isn't it? It's
so
insane.
short. Whereas a YouTube video, it's evergreen.
Yeah.
SEO comes into it. It's a
Yeah.
Google platform, so you can put a video on there. People are still watching it years and years later through search. It's great.
Yeah, I did a tutorial of how to create the black background portraits of the horses, and
Yeah,
it must be about 10 years ago, and I still get comments on it every single day. And that, which is, it's a search engine, isn't it? It's a visual search engine,
yeah,
which in terms of exposure and reach is just incredible.
yeah. I love
Um,
it.
I wanted to talk about journaling as well. So you are big on journaling, right?
Yeah, yeah, massive.
And do you feel that that helps your content?
Yes, I do, because it helps me stay sane.
Which helps your entire business.
Which, yeah, just helps. Like, do you know what? This is one of the biggest lessons that I've learned as someone who's done this creative business thing for quite a few years
Yep.
now. My biggest job is to look after my own well-being. It's
Yes.
everything that I'm told not to do. It's to have an hour or so just sitting around doing nothing, looking out the window. It's taking myself on a long walk. It's making sure I journal.
Yep.
All the things that we feel guilty about that are like, supposed to be even lazy or indulgent because we're supposed to be sat at our desks for 8 hours a day, chained to them. If you want to be in a creative kind of business, your well-being is your priority, because without that, there's no work. And the more you
Absolutely.
invest in that well-being, the more you invest in yourself, the better your work will be, the quicker you'll do the work. It's just completely flipping everything I've been taught since school on its head. And journaling is very much a part of that. So it's an important daily habit of mine, I would say.
I love that. And like one of the things that if I can teach my clients anything, it's that a schedule isn't about showing up every single day. It's about having boundaries.
Yeah,
Just as important as your schedule for showing up is your schedule for not showing up. Because then it
absolutely.
means that when you are on and when you are in work mode, you're just so much more capable.
Mm.
You're a better person at work than you would be if you had no boundaries. So I love
Yeah.
that. And talk us through Substack then, because I think there's a lot of listeners that won't even know what that is, won't understand how it works.
Mm.
It's fairly
It's
new, right?
It's really, really new. It's kind of a writer's. I mean, I think that we're in the mid, not even at the middle. I think we're at the beginning of this female creative revolution, which is so exciting. Like, you
It
tell me
is,
when
yeah.
there's been another time when we can make our own stuff, sell it on the internet. We don't need a boss. We can have kids and stay at home and run our businesses from
Yeah.
home and build businesses around us and our lives, and we're not having to fit into
It's
that.
amazing.
It's incredible. It's so exciting. Not many people, and it's just getting started. Like, I always compare it to maybe like a watchmaker's career, where it just goes back, I don't know,
Yeah.
centuries, maybe, like it's just so far back.
Yeah.
So you have that path to follow. Whereas we're all just finding our way, but the universe keeps expanding with it. The opportunities are only growing. I find it so, so, so exciting.
Yeah.
And
Same.
Substack is really helping that in terms of both writers and readers. So you can start a Substack in the same way that you can start a newsletter. So at its core, it's a newsletter platform. But basically, what it does is it gives writers all the power that they would have usually passed over to an editor. Like, we can
Right.
publish ourselves, we can build a community on there, we can build paid for community, and we can build free community, and people can choose to opt into either. We can do video on there, we can do podcasts on there. There's so much. There's no algorithm. It's all in
Amazing.
chronological order. People get it either straight to their inbox, or there's an app that you can use, and it's quality long form content. No one's playing the algorithm game on there. They're
Yeah.
just sharing their hearts, sharing what's valuable, and people that are interested are finding it. And it's
Yeah.
great.
So
It's a
powerful.
really healthy, loving, creative community. I'm obsessed with it.
I love that. That's really cool. And the idea that creators are just getting paid to create, I think is just so important in this day and age.
Yeah, it's wonderful.
So with your book, you've got and your ebooks as well. We haven't even mentioned those.
Mm.
So remind me of you've got three ebooks. One is
Yeah.
wardrobe, home,
Yeah, so I
and what's the other
started when I started my blog. Again, it was a case of, wanting to monetize it and figuring out what
one? Yeah,
opportunities there were. I'm not I do some brand work, but I don't do a lot of it. I like to cherry pick and make sure it's very valuable for people who follow me. It's things that they're actually going to be interested in. And the best thing for me to do, I felt, was to create something direct.
yeah,
So that's what my ebooks were born out of, because people really wanted help curating their own version of a capsule wardrobe, a curated, simple, clutter-free, stylish home, and then the whole lifestyle thing. So relationships, budgeted, values, all sorts of different things. So yeah, I have 3 ebooks on that are for sale on my
And they're
blog.
all about
Basically, step-by-step guide.
simplifying everything, kind of slow living type of um advice, right? So if you were to write one for running a business, so
Mm,
it's like slow, simple business owner
yeah.
kind of vibes, what would your advice be for, we've talked a bit about boundaries, but about, simply simplifying your business, I guess, as a small business owner?
Yeah. I mean, I go with the first exercise, which is in enough and it's in a simplified life as well. And it's figuring out what your values are. I think that
Yes.
is absolutely like everything stems from that. I'm a big fan of living from the inside out. So figuring out what it is that you value, what it is that you want. Again, it's okay to be you, accepting that, and then building a life around that instead of looking at what everyone else is doing, because that's when I
Yes.
think we feel in touch with who we are, when we feel connected to who we are. It's intuition led living, as opposed to tick box, being on the hamster wheel, doing things, not knowing why we're
Yes,
doing them.
absolutely.
So I think figuring out what your values are, how you want your business to be remembered, how you want to spend your days, how you want to feel, how you want other people to feel. I think
Yeah.
they're really big existential questions when it comes to running a business, and will give you so many answers, because you can constantly ask yourself, is this in line with my values? And
Yeah.
that's your compass to use
Yeah.
constantly.
And
That's
then
what
you're
we're
going to be attracting the people that align with those values, aren't you?
And you'll be
Yeah.
repelling the people that aren't. And that is so important, because we can't be for everyone. So if you
Yeah.
want a simple, intentional business, it needs to be, people think that simple is supposed to be easy. It's not. Simple is not easy, because we have to think of everything not to do.
Yes.
Simple is about being left with only the valuable, and that takes work. It's a lot easier to just try and do everything.
Yeah.
Um,
It takes
not,
bravery.
it does take bravery, it takes intention, it takes
Yeah.
thought, but it's so worth it. And I think if that's the kind of business you want, you need to be very, very focused, very good at saying no, thinking about what works, and focusing on that.
Yeah. Love that. Really love that. And what would you say your biggest struggle in your role as a creator and as a writer and somebody who does show up online has been?
Hmm. I think what I said earlier about having to focus on my own
Right.
well-being, and
Yeah.
instead of thinking that it's like there was a time when I thought it was about having the perfect desk, the perfect office space, creating perfect photos and getting 100,000 followers on Instagram, and working every single hour possible. And that's what it was all about. It's really not. It's about looking after myself first and filling up my own cup, so then
Yeah.
I have more to give to others, because if I don't have value to share, what's the point?
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. And what would you say keeps you going? So when it does get difficult and when, you've been through some incredibly difficult times and you've kept going through those. And not only have you kept going, you actually wrote a book whilst going through them, which is probably, you know, the most the biggest undertaking ever as a business owner. So what is it that keeps you going? Is it up the people that you're helping?
Yeah, it definitely is. I'm I just feel so grateful for them, and I feel so grateful that I'd built up an audience before life really hit the rocks for me, like it has these last 2-3 years. Because I even, when things were really, really bad, and I mean, there were days when I couldn't get out of bed. I
Yeah,
felt so bad, and brushing my teeth felt like running a marathon. It was that kind of situation. um, I knew that they were there. And I
That's
knew that
amazing.
I knew that I had things to share and I wanted to share. And it's telling stories is what gets me out of bed every day because that's what I want to do. I want to
Yeah.
make people think, I want to make people feel that is that's my purpose. And I can't not do that. If I don't do that, I'm not living. And I guess, yeah, when I felt like I wasn't really living, when I did feel my most dead inside, that was my grasp at feeling alive. So it
Yeah.
was very,
Gave you a
very,
purpose.
yeah, it did. It absolutely did.
And how are you now?
Good.
Yeah.
Really good. Yeah. I said in a vlog the other day, like I'm going back to Paris and I booked a one-way ticket this
Oh,
time.
oh my gosh.
And
So for those who
someone,
don't know, Jessica just spent a month in Paris. A
yeah.
month
Yeah, it was a
on
month.
your own.
Yeah. Yeah.
Amazing.
Because I thought the universe told me to go. So I was like, I'm gonna go. I'm gonna do it. See what happens. And I've booked to go back. And I got someone left a comment or something about running away from your problems. And I was like, do you know what? For the first time in 3 years, I feel the happiest I felt
Wow.
with my life, and that I'm not running, running away from
Yeah.
anything. I don't think. I
I mean,
just
your problems
really,
don't
really
go
good.
away if you go to Paris, do they? So
No, they
I
don't.
think,
Everything follows you around. But that's come from a lot of inner work,
yeah,
a lot of healing that I've done. And apparently, once you've done that, you rise from the ashes like a phoenix. So
yeah.
I hope so.
I love that. I love that for you. Um, so if someone is listening right now and they are at the beginning of a journey that, may be similar to yours, maybe slightly different, but they want to build a business, they're creative, but they're terrified of showing up, what would you tell them?
Start small, break it
Okay.
down. Because I think when we feel really scared, it's because we're making it into this big thing. So if you're scared of showing up, you don't have to make a vlog and put yourself on
Yeah.
YouTube to start with. Even if you do, like that's great, go for it. But break it down into teeny, teeny, tiny steps and tackle them one at a time, I would say. So if it's, I don't know whatever the idea is, but write it down, journal, write it down, get it out of your body so you can actually see it on the page. That really helps. And then break it down into as teeny tiny steps as possible. It might, if it's starting a blog, it might be researching how to start a blog, buying a domain,
Yeah.
figuring out what your first blog post is, and then drafting your first blog post, and then editing you. Do you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
teeny, teeny, tiny steps, and one at a time, tackle them. Before you know it, it will have all added up to something.
Yes. Yeah, I love that. That's really, really good advice. And when it comes to your creation process with content, Instagram, vlogs, Substack, whatever it is, do you have a process or do you wing it? How does it work for you?
Oh, I feel like I'm winging it all the time.
Don't we all?
Exactly. But again, that's another. I wish people told you that in the beginning. Oh, by the way,
Yeah.
anyone that you think is successful is winging it,
None of
and
us know what's going on.
no
We are
one
making
knows
it up.
what's going on. And no matter how successful you're talking,
Yeah.
everyone feels the same. That's really great to know. So yeah, I feel like I'm winging it all the time. I take, simplicity comes into it a lot, and less but better. And my goal every week is to churn out 2 pieces of content. That's all I have to do really, and that's usually a Substack and a vlog. Anything else on
Amazing.
top of that is a bonus, but I just focus on trying to churn out 2 pieces of really quality, valuable content, and I never set myself more than 3 things to do every day either.
Amazing. That's really
Yeah.
cool. And then do you use those longer form pieces of content to then create smaller pieces of content? Or is that not how it
Not
works for
like
you?
I should. I get a bit, messy, and I think, oh, I want to share this, no, I want to share that.
Yeah, yeah,
Or you know what it's like, it's a mess, it's
yeah,
all a mess, and that's
yeah,
okay. So yeah, sometimes yes, sometimes no. Just depends on how I'm very feelings led in
yes.
in my
You get
business.
that from your content, definitely.
Yeah, depends. It can just depend on how I'm feeling that day, what I'm into. Yeah,
Because I
but
think people
that's a
think that,
part of being, when it's about you, you kind of can't
yes,
help but take that approach.
Yeah, and I think people think that consistency means you have to be there every day. And, I would say that you are a consistent content creator, but it doesn't mean you show up on Instagram every single day or, and I think that's a really important thing for people to take on board.
Yeah, and think about it from an audience's point of view. I would rather
Yeah.
someone showed up when they had something they were really excited to tell me
Yes.
instead of showing up because, hey guys, it's Tuesday and I feel like I need to say something. Like, okay, great, but I didn't need to, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You don't need to waste my time. I know you're there. I love
Yeah.
you. I'm here for it.
Yeah.
So
Come
I
back when
think,
you have something to
yeah,
say.
just, treat people how you'd like to be treated.
Yeah, that's a really good piece of advice.
Yeah.
And then I like to finish the podcast with two questions. One is your career highlight. So, do
Oh.
you have a highlight throughout your whole career that you could kind of pinpoint as a really high moment for you?
Yeah, do you know what? The first one that came into my head was the day my book got published, but it actually wasn't. It was the day I finished my draft and I sent it off to the publisher. And I
Yeah.
walked down, I was again, I didn't have anywhere to live when I was writing the book. I finished it in a cafe by the sea
Wow.
near my sister's caravan because I couldn't find a cottage to rent. And so I went there. And that was deadline day, and I finished it. And I walked down to the sea. I took my shoes off, very poetic,
I love it.
and just cried, just let it out.
Oh,
And I thought, oh my God, I've just written a book. I literally and that's something I never thought I could do a few years ago. Like, if I
amazing.
could do that, wow. And I
Yeah.
took that moment for myself, and I'm proud of myself for doing that instead of thinking, oh, it's done, and now I just need to tell everyone on Instagram and, focus on
Yes.
what's next. And it was like, no, I've done this. I need
Got to
to,
celebrate those wins,
yeah, I
haven't we?
got to celebrate it. And it wasn't it was walking down to the water and taking deep breaths,
Yeah,
but I think I took a photo after so I can look back and remember it. But yeah, that was a massive highlight finishing the book.
amazing. In
Yeah.
everything you were going through, I think
Yes.
that just is incredible. Absolutely incredible. And I don't think anyone's got any excuses ever now for the rest of for the rest of these podcasts. And I think obviously the title of this is What If It All Works Out? And I love the way you run your business and I love how heart-led you are and how intentional and how you prioritize your well-being. I love all of that. It really resonates with me and I think that everyone's going to really take a lot from this and get a lot of value from this. So my last question is, what has been your win of the week this week? So what has gone well for you this week?
Okay, so we're Tuesday.
Yeah.
And it was bank holiday
Yeah. Okay,
yesterday.
well we'll do it from last Tuesday.
I did work yesterday, actually. Do you know what? I don't feel like I've had a win of the week, and that's okay. And that is my win of the week.
I love that.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's okay. Doesn't have to be. It's
What a
fine.
wonderful way to reframe a shit week. No, I'm joking.
It's okay. It's all part of the ride.
It is. Yeah, that's absolutely true. We don't always have to be, chasing the big wins and the big celebrations. I love that. Excellent. Thank you so much for chatting to me. That's just been really, really valuable. And I know that everyone's going to love listening to it. And tell us where everyone can go and find you, if they haven't seen you before.
Oh God, I'm all over the place. So my book, Enough, you can find in bookshops and on Amazon, online, Google that, you'll find that. My website is Jessica Rose Williams. That's where you'll find my eBooks. My YouTube is Jessica Rose Williams. I'm there. And then I'm at Jessica Rose Williams on Instagram as well. And my Substack is called The Simple Letter if you want newsletters from me.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Jessica. It's lovely to speak to you.
Thank you for having me. I really enjoyed it.
You're welcome.
Bye.
Oh my goodness, I could not have asked for a better first guest on my brand new podcast. Isn't she amazing? I hope you left this conversation feeling as inspired and moved as I did. And I have to thank Jessica for sharing all of her wisdom and her experience with us so candidly. And thank you so much to you too for taking the time to press play on the official launch of this brand new podcast. I am your host, Sophie Callahan. This is What If It All Works Out, and I will see you in the next episode.